Hello everyone, welcome to Pharma Guru. So in this video, we will be talking about a topic, or we will be discussing on a topic which is suggested by one of our viewers, and the topic is the regulation of blood pressure. So we will directly start the regulation of blood pressure. Before getting into the regulation, how blood pressure is regulated in our body, we should properly know actually what is blood pressure. See, whenever we hear blood pressure, what comes to our mind is 120/80 mmHg. Of course, 120/80 mmHg. In which, what is 120? 120 is the systolic blood pressure, whereas 80 is the diastolic blood pressure. And I would like to say, just believe me for a moment, that the systolic blood pressure is directly proportional to cardiac output. That is, whenever the cardiac output increases, the systolic blood pressure increases. Whenever cardiac output decreases, systolic blood pressure also decreases. So same with diastolic blood pressure. The diastolic blood pressure is directly proportional to the TPR, that is the total peripheral resistance. Now we will see how the systolic blood pressure and the cardiac output is related. So before that, let's have a quick recap of how the blood supply occurs in the heart. Okay, so this is our structure of the heart. This is the right atrium, this is the right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. So we will start from this side. This is the superior vena cava that drains all the deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body. This is the inferior vena cava that drains all the deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body. From whole the body, the deoxygenated blood fills up in the right atrium. From the right atrium, we have the tricuspid valve which open and the deoxygenated blood enters into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, whenever there is a valve here, this valve is known as the venous valve. So whenever the blood is filled up in this ventricle and it pumps through this vein and goes to, this one goes to the right lungs and this one goes to the left lung. Run. And the blood, that is the deoxygenated blood, reaches the lungs. From the lungs, after the deoxygenated blood is converted into oxygenated blood, it comes back to the left atrium. We have 4 pulmonary veins, among which first 2 pulmonary veins come from the left lung and the next 2 pulmonary veins come from the right lung. So all the 4 pulmonary veins will drain the oxygenated blood into the the left atrium. From the left atrium, whenever there is the opening of this valve, the oxygenated blood will enter into the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle, at a certain condition, whenever there is a valve here, that is the aortic valve, whenever the aortic valve open, the oxygenated blood from the left ventricle will be pumped into the aorta and the oxygenated blood will be supplied to all of the body. So this is actually what happens. Now we will see that how systolic blood pressure is related to cardiac output and how diastolic is to total peripheral resistance. So in order to understand that, we will take only this part, the left ventricle part and the aorta. So we will consider that this is our left ventricle. Done. And this is the aortic valve from which the aorta arises, and the aorta further splits and gives blood supply to different parts of the body. Now take for instance that the oxygenated blood has been filled into the left ventricle. Okay, whenever the oxygenated blood is filled in the left ventricle and the heart undergoes systole. What is systole? Systole is the contraction of the heart, or specifically systole means the contraction of the ventricle. So whenever the heart undergoes systole, that is the contraction of the ventricle, these valves, that is the aortic valve, the valve that controls the opening and closure of the aorta, that's where it is aortic valve. So this aortic valve will open and the blood will be pumped into the aorta from the ventricle due to closure, because the ventricles will contract and will pump all of its blood into the aorta. Now just listen what happens. When the blood is pumped into the aorta, after the systole is complete, these valves will close. And what happens? See, consider a tube, a very delicate tube, very thin tube, into which we will pump some fluid. What happens for a moment, that when the fluid enters this area, there is a small bulging of the pipe here, small bulging of the aorta. Done. The pressure that is felt by the aortic valve when the systole is complete or the blood is pumped into this is the systolic blood pressure. Fine. Simple. So now think of that only a small volume of blood is pumped here, and second time a large volume of blood is pumped here. So whenever small volume of blood is pumped, there will be only small expansion of the aorta, and when large volume is pumped, there will be greater expansion of the aorta, right? So what is pumped from here? Blood. The amount of blood that is pumped during each beat is the stroke volume, that is directly proportional to the cardiac output. So that is the cardiac output. That's why I said whenever the cardiac output increases, the expansion of the aorta or the pressure to the walls of the aorta increases. That's why when cardiac output increases, the systolic blood pressure increases. Now after the blood has been filled into this area and the valve has been closed, now the blood cannot flow backwards. The blood has to move forward. Then what happens is this blood will move forward, and as the blood moves forward, since the aortic valves are elastic, it will come back to its normal position. And when these valves come back to the normal position, it will apply some resistance or some friction or some pressure to the blood. It will resist the blood to flow. That pressure is known as the diastolic pressure. That's why we say that the resistance, that is the total peripheral resistance, is directly proportional to diastolic blood pressure. That is, whenever the total peripheral resistance increases, diastolic blood pressure increases. Take into account that this is the size of the aorta. See, I have decreased the decreased total peripheral resistance. Okay, so whenever the valve is constricted, it is difficult for the blood to move. So more of force is applied by the aorta or the arteries to the blood. That's why the total peripheral resistance increases, then the diastolic blood pressure also increases. So this is how the systolic blood pressure is connected to the cardiac output, whereas the diastolic blood pressure is connected to the total peripheral resistance. So that was the basic that we should know. Okay, I hope you have understood. So this was the basic that we should know in order to understand the blood pressure regulation. So understanding blood pressure regulation is a very simple thing. But the thing is, it is a long process. So we will divide this into two. First, short-term regulation of the blood pressure. Second one is the long-term regulation of blood pressure. The short-term regulation of the blood pressure is carried out by the neurological system, whereas the long-term regulation of the blood pressure is carried out by the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Now we need to understand both these concepts in details. That's why in this video lecture, we will deal only with the neurological regulation, and in the next video that I will be uploading, we will be seeing the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Why I'm making it a two videos? Because I want you guys to understand it thoroughly. So blood pressure regulation occurs through two ways. First one is a short-term regulation by your body, or second one is the long-term regulation. The short-term regulation is the neurological regulation, whereas the long-term regulation is the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So now let's go to the neurological regulation of blood pressure. Okay guys, now we will see how the neurological regulation of the blood pressure occurs inside our body. We will go very slowly because we want to understand it very clearly. So we will take, for instance, we have hypertension, or at least I have a increased blood pressure. So as a result of increased blood pressure, what happens is the blood from the left ventricle will be pumped with increased pressure into the aorta. Okay, in the aorta we will have certain receptors known as baroreceptors. Okay, along with the aorta, in the carotid sinus also we will be having the baroreceptors. And these baroreceptors have certain neuronal connections. These baroreceptors have certain neuronal connections. See, the neuronal connections that are connected to the baroreceptors, the ending of the neuronal connections will have certain channels that are the sodium channels. Okay, so when there is an increased blood pressure, there will be stretching of the aortic valves. And whenever there is stretching of an aortic valve, what happens is these sodium channels or these neurons will expand. As a result of expansion of these neurons, the sodium channels present in these neurons will open, and then the sodium will move into these neurons, right? The sodiums will move into this neuron, and whenever there is movement of a positively charged substance into the neurons, specifically the sodium, what happens? There is a generation of the action potential. There is generation of action potential, and that action potential will be transmitted from there. Now who will carry this action potential? See, from the carotid sinus, this action potential as a result of increased blood pressure, as a result of stretching of the aorta, the sodium will move from the baroreceptors to the neurons and will produce an action potential, and from the carotid sinus this action potential will be carried out by the 9th cranial nerve, that is the glossopharyngeal nerve, and from the aortic baroreceptors this action potential will be carried out by the 10th cranial nerve, that is the vagus nerve. Okay, so this action potential will be carried out to the central nervous system, specifically to this part, that is our medulla. So this action potential will be carried by the 9th and the 10th cranial nerve to the medulla. Inside the medulla we have a specific nucleus. We have this nucleus, and he is known as the tractus solitarius. Okay, so this action potential will be carried by the 9th and the 10th cranial nerve to the tractus solitarius. Now when this action potential reaches the tractus solitarius, the nucleus will come to know that there is an increased blood pressure inside the body. Now he is the one who has to control the blood pressure. What the tractus solitarius do is that there is a center inside the medulla that is known as the cardioinhibitory center. What will the tractus solitarius do? He will activate the cardiac inhibitory center. Okay, he will activate the cardiac inhibitory center and will ask the cardiac inhibitory center to reduce the blood pressure. And how this cardiac inhibitory center will reduce the blood pressure is, the cardiac inhibitory center will get activated, and what happens is it will release a sympathetic outflow. As a result of sympathetic outflow, which neurotransmitter will be released is the acetylcholine, and this acetylcholine will move all the way and reach to the specific point in the heart, that is the SA node. Now our SA node contains many receptors, and one among those receptors is the M2 receptors. So these acetylcholine will move all the way and bind to these M2 receptors, and as a result of binding of this acetylcholine to the M2 receptors, the SA node will reduce the heart rate. Now whenever there is reduced heart rate, what happens? Reduced amount of blood will enter into the aorta. So whenever there is reduced amount of blood entering into the aorta, or whenever there is reduced cardiac output, as we have discussed, cardiac output is directly proportional to the systolic blood pressure. So whenever there is reduced cardiac output, we can reduce the systolic blood pressure. So this will decrease the systolic blood pressure. Along with that, the tractus solitarius nucleus will do one more thing, is that there is again one more center in the brain, or specifically the medulla, that is the cardiac acceleratory center. We have a cardiac inhibitory center which is activated by the tractus solitarius. So what will the tractus solitarius do to the cardiac acceleratory center is he will inhibit the cardiac acceleratory center. So generally what the cardiac acceleratory center did is that it will introduce a parasympathetic activity through the release of norepinephrine and will increase the heart rate generally. So when the tractus solitarius will inhibit this cardiac acceleratory center, the parasympathetic activity will be stopped, norepinephrine will not be released, so there will not be activation of heart rate, which will further reduce the heart rate, and further reduction of the heart rate will induce reduced blood pressure. This thing happens whenever there is an increased blood pressure. So we know we have come across a term, that is the carotid sinus massage or the carotid massage. So what we actually do in carotid massage is we will do a massage here, and where this is the carotid sinus. In the carotid sinus we know the baroreceptor is there. Whenever the massage this place, the carotid sinus will expand, the baroreceptors will expand, sodium will come in, and the same mechanism will take place. That's why whenever there is a hypertensive patient, we can do the carotid sinus massage to reduce the blood pressure through this mechanism. So this is actually what happens in a blood pressure regulation by the neurological system. The heart, the carotid and the sinus artery along with the medulla is involved, and who is the star of the evening? Obviously this nucleus, that is the tractus solitarius, who will inhibit and activate two centers, that is the cardioinhibitory center and the cardiac acceleratory center, and the neurotransmitters involved are acetylcholine and norepinephrine, and the receptor involved is M2 receptor. I hope that you understood that how the neurological system regulates the blood pressure in our body. So we will meet up in the next video discussing about the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, that how the RAAS system, one of the most important system in our body, will regulate our blood pressure. Till then, stay safe, take care, and keep learning.